Want to learn how to be a wizard? Let's get better at our spell casting in a game that's all about guns. Let's start with electric. At early levels, you only have 2 spell slots. If you combine a lightning spell with a voodoo spell, you'll generate these candles that you can walk on to regain health. If you combine acid and lightning, it explodes. And if you combine all 3 when you unlock the 3rd spell slot, you can blow people up. And if you cast your voodoo spell, you'll be able to recreate those candles so you can pick those up and regain health. Here we'll show an example of Geyser plus Strikes to create a massive AoE splash damage spell. And when it comes to combining spells, order matters. If you use an acid into lightning, it'll blow up. But if you use lightning into acid, the bubbles will explode, creating an AoE splash damage similar to Geyser. Now if you combine all 3 of those, you'll create a massive splash AoE spell. Let's look at it from above. I also want to point out that your acid spells and your voodoo spells are essentially support. They add damage or add healing to any of the lightning and fire spells. So let's look at some fire spells. Start with the early levels. If you add your acid spell and your voodoo plus your fireball, you create a splash AoE explosion and still have healing as well. You can also trail this spell if you're being followed by a large group of enemies. And again, you start out with 2 spell slots to use any 2 combinations you'd like. Now let's show you how to make a tornado. You can use any acid spell with a large enough spell radius and throw a fire spell into it to create the tornado. The tornado comes in very handy in bottleneck situations.
I saw quite a bit.
I also want to note that experience points is gained by the amount of times that you use the spell and how much damage your spell does throughout the remainder of that round.
76.
Now keep in mind that those tornadoes will track your enemies and move. And on top of that, you can use this opportunity to create your voodoo spell candles. Now let's get to everybody's favorite, triple tornado. To do this, you'll have to learn how portals use. Your portal spells will duplicate items, and it will send them in one side and out the other. So note that positioning will matter on this. Keep in mind that throwing projectile spells through the portal will multiply them, rather than having a single. I found it easier to create the triple tornado by throwing your fire first, then your acid. This spell combination is very useful for killing lots of enemies, or just trolling your friends. Congratulations, you've now graduated Cowboy Wizard School. Cowboy up. We'll see you in the next video.